in tandem. So that's again a check. We have someone logged in. They also have a way to enter their two-factor authentication, and it's through an authenticator app, not an SMS card, because there's a high chance of SIM jacking there. And then like another layer that LedgerX adds on there is being able to call the person just to verify who they are, verify the account information and the withdrawal. So these are all steps. Even though it feels very manual, it does ensure safety for the users. Laura, you can add on if you would like.
Yeah, it is a tricky question. That's true, but we take it very seriously, and we do verify, that username, address, independent. It depends if it's a dollar or a Bitcoin withdrawal, right? But yeah, we definitely double check on like several levels that everything matches. Karen was mentioning the phone calls, right? I mean, at some point you get to know the user's voice, so it's and you can like track it back to like other withdrawals and make sure that everything is actually consistent with previous withdrawals. And if something is not consistent, then there's always, you can always raise a flag there and like ask what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, I even remember an incident sometime last year where a customer was on a trip somewhere. He has access to all this stuff, and someone was able to SIM swap him and try to get into his accounts. Now, all these other exchanges just let it go through because they just want to make sure it's as fast as possible. And LedgerX actually said, why would he be doing a withdrawal at 2 in the morning? This doesn't make sense. So just having that phone call and ensuring just a little bit of slowness, I think is okay. It ensures like security.
Yep. Right. Yeah, sometimes the fastest path is not the safest.
Yeah.
That's the lesson learned. All right, more questions, anyone?
Can I just ask another question?
Sure.
Yeah.
So just a clarification for the last one you asked. You said, I agree with you that fast is not always the best, but where is that threshold?
I think that was determined by compliance.
Yeah,
it's definitely a business decision.
Yeah, that's it has been a business decision from compliance. Right, there's I mean, it depends on the amount, right? For like smaller amounts, we would allow fastest confirmations and withdrawals. But so LedgerX, we have both retail and institutional customers, right? So there's always like institutional customers that they're moving larger amounts, and even for these customers, they appreciate a phone call. And so that's a little bit, that answers you a little bit the answer of the threshold, right? It depends on amount. Sometimes it also depends on users. We are considering now actually, besides like other requirements, but like maybe allowing the user also to decide if he wants to be called or not, depending on what amount. So yeah, we are trying to be a little bit flexible in like the exact threshold in that case as well.
When you say small amount, where do you put the threshold on that?
How do we put the threshold on that? Again, it's a business decision, it's compliance and what they feel comfortable with. Because just as an example, I mean, as a regulated platform, you also want to make sure it's also for deposits, right? Not only want to make sure that names and like accounts and everything match, but you also want to make sure that there's nothing like sketchy or like, nothing that goes against any like anti-money laundering policy. So that's why things are like double checked sometimes, or especially for like larger amounts. But again, it really depends sometimes on the type of account, right? Whether it's retail or institutional, and then on what it's a business decision on like when they want to make the call.
If no one has a question, I can ask one. So Karen, this is something I struggle with personally where I'm working right now at Saya. A lot of products that we are building in the crypto space are complex. And when we are dealing with users, we want to make them understand how a certain product works, but at the same time, not overwhelm that in the product copy. So how do you balance between putting all the information about the product, how it works, why it does certain things a certain way onto the product screen and the product copy versus keeping that out in awareness articles or just learning center or some other forms of educational materials? And how do you decide, where to draw that line? That's kind of very
Right.
tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's definitely a challenge that we work with on LiveDirect almost every day. So within this redesign, what I was looking at was how do we pace the information? What I would also look at is what decisions are you trying to have them make? Could it be simpler? From there, you can kind of derive if this is a simpler path, that also helps simplify the copy. So I know sometimes like I'll write some temporary text in there, and then it's like, oh, I think this can be shorter, so I'll tinker with it, and then also ask a few people in the office, and it's like, can we tinker with this and try to get this shorter? Because sometimes someone will send me copy, and then I'll put it in there, and it just looks really long. So visually, it's just like no one's going to read that. They want to read like half a sentence, something shorter than a tweet. So I'll try to use like the length of a tweet sometimes as a little bit of a guidance, being able to narrow down the tasks they're trying to do. So if it feels like too many tasks, I'll reevaluate to see, do we need as many tasks? Can we break it into a couple of screens? What are the effects of breaking it into a couple of screens? Does that mean it's more understandable, but they feel like they're making progress and they're going to get something really good at the end?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, Karen, I have a question for you. For people that are getting into design or want to learn, what tools would you recommend to start with, or I don't know, what educational resources out there?
So many things. I'm sure I'm flickering through them right now. Okay, if you want to get your hands dirty, one of the simpler things to get on is Figma. So what's great is it's in a browser. Personal account is free, up to 3 projects, so you can really load up a lot of artboards in there. And what I would do is try to create a little project for yourself, and then kind of go through the story of what do you want to accomplish with this product. Keep it super simple. So I've seen projects go haywire because there are too many features. So the idea is to be able to focus, like, rather than do a lot of features crappy, try to do 1 or 2 features really, really well, communicate it really well. In terms of design, Figma is a good tool, but also, what is it? I'm trying to remember the books that I've gone through. There's an older book. I'm sure there's an updated version of it, but it's just like make it as simple as possible. And the idea is, oh, I can send URLs after this. That's a good comment. Thank you. Yes, I can send a list of resources. So it'll include tools, books, articles, places I go to for inspiration, people that I follow. There's one guy that I've been following for years, and he has these great tweets where he just breaks down like changes of phone taps over years, and how has filling in forms improved over time and what he's contributed to it. That's a simple thing.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to checking out all these links now.
Okay. There's a lot.
I agree that Figma is a great tool. We actually we've been using it in the team for some of the awareness stuff, right? Some of the marketing things. It's great because Karen can make any design, and then we can just go inside and update the copy real quick, and we don't need to like bother her because she definitely.
Yeah, it's a good collaboration tool. So, and then the other nice thing is like you could be able to share it with someone and then get their sense of, is the idea that you're trying to convey make sense? Is it conveying correctly to the next person? So that's a good way to get feedback and kind of get into the almost a routine of asking, how's it doing? Is it doing the right thing? Is it doing what you expected? Is there a tweak that can make it clearer?
We also used it in our website design, right, Laura? Women in Blockchain.
Yes, we did. Yes, which will come live soon, I promise. There's one live right now already. Mansi did a great job, but there will be an update pretty soon. Cool. Which Karen also helped, by the way, so check it out.
Very little.
Yeah, but at the website, right now, we released a beginner's guide for people who are new to the blockchain space. I just shared the link. It's a guide for people who are new, want to learn and get a sense of what blockchain is. So it's an introductory level guide with various topics and subtopics. I highly recommend it if you're interested, or if there's anyone you know who might benefit from it, definitely share it with them. Sorry, someone was asking a question?
Yes, I was wondering if we use the B2B data structure instead of the MySQL or Mongo database, do we have to use completely different setup to do the UX UI? So, I mean, you mentioned Figma, but how about the other tools like Balsamic or Sketch or OmniGraph or Principle, Flinter, etc., like Adobe tools, or are they going to still be um, in demand in this field, or we have to switch to another tool set?
Oh, definitely a very good question. It's funny because I had suggested Figma because it's something that's quickly accessible for anyone. For the work that I've done, I've worked with Adobe tools, and then at some point, I'm working in Sketch, and I'm in the middle of actually going back and forth between Figma and Sketch because I'm more familiar with some of the nuances of Sketch, and if I feel faster in it. So what I'm still doing is kind of doing a comparison between the two. And it's funny because last year I was going to do a deep dive into it, and that was the day it went down for a day, and I nearly lost my mind. It depends on what you want to do. All those tools sound great. What I try to do is just narrow it down to what do I need to do at that point in time. For me, Sketch has been something like Sketch or Figma work really well in terms of if I want to plan, what is it, a sitemap or be able to plan like wireframes, it's super easy to do in Sketch. Once I set in all the symbols and get everything ready, I could just reuse it again and again and again. And from there, I'll work on the design. And then handoff, currently, I'm using InVision for that. But I'm kind of hoping once I'm done with like evaluating Figma and testing it, it would be great to be able to just kind of hand off like a website like in Figma to a developer, so it's kind of all in one.
Do you have to know how to deal with solidity somehow?
I'm sorry?
Do you have to